Welcome to Season 4 of the Comfortably Hungry podcast, where yesterday's dinner is tomorrow's history. If you're a peckish person who is curious about the history of food and drink, then you're in the right place. I'm Sam Bilton, an author of some rather niche books who adores her history and food. And by the end of this podcast, I hope you'll be a fan of food history too. You can see what historical delicacies I'm cooking at the moment on Instagram, Threads or Blue Sky at Mrs. Bilton, that's with 2 S's. In Season 4, we're going to be immersing ourselves in the fascinating world of fresh water, which as we all know is vital to life. We'll be journeying through the centuries to learn more about the food, drink and medicines water provides, its spiritual significance, discovering how water has been used to prepare and preserve our victuals, and how water has been utilised as a source of power and transportation for the food sector. Some of the topics will be obvious, but as ever, I hope that one or two will be pleasantly surprising. As with earlier seasons of the Comfortably Hungry podcast, the guests will be invited to bring a dish to the season's virtual potluck supper. And we've had some delicious contributions, I can tell you. The paid subscribers to the Comfortably Hungry Substack will also get access to recipes inspired by the topics covered in this season. Today is the last episode of Season 4. It's sad, I know, but all good things must come to an end. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this season as much as I've loved researching it. We are coming full circle back to where we started the season, when I spoke to Janice Lee about the Wellcome Foundation's exhibition, Thirst in Search of Fresh Water. In this episode, I will be chatting to Niyati Kukadia of S4E14 Excursions, which specialises in organising tours that take in the wildlife, culture and architecture of Gujarat, Rajasthan and other areas of India. We'll be discussing India's Stepwells, a forgotten architectural phenomenon dating back thousands of years. These structures plunge several stories deep into the earth and once provided a vital source of water in India's most arid regions. But as we will hear, they were so much more than a means to reach water and could provide one potential solution to India's current water crisis. Before we hear Niyati's interview, I wanted to remind you that I will be exploring both the literal and symbolic roles of food in Shakespeare's world as part of the British Library Food Season Big Weekend on Saturday the 13th of June at 4 p.m. I'll be joining renowned actor Simon Russell Beale, Shakespeare scholar and food historian Sheila T. Kavanagh and Will Tosh, Director of Education at Shakespeare's Globe, both of whom have been guests on this podcast. I'll have to work on getting Mr. Beale on the podcast that weekend. In-person tickets are selling fast, but you can also buy tickets to watch this event online along with a number of other events taking place that weekend. I'll pop a link in the show notes so that you can find out more information. Don't forget to stay tuned until the end of the episode when I'll be revealing what the theme for Season 5 will be. Now back to those Stepwells. Welcome to the podcast, Niyati, and thank you for joining me today to talk about something which I don't know anything about, and I'm sure is going to be a huge learning curve for me and absolutely fascinating.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to this podcast. Water architecture has been one of my favorite subjects since a decade. I'm really excited to share more about stepwells, considering that I belong to the state which has the most ornate and beautiful stepwells found in the world.
So I understand. So I guess what we ought to start with is getting you to tell us a bit about yourself and what you do.
I run a travel company called S4E14 Excursions, SOAR, Soaring of the Birds.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, we specialize in customized academically leaning tours like farm to fork and art and architecture, textiles. And I have an experience working with a lot of researchers and academics over the years. I did help a researcher do their research in urban planning and focusing on how public spaces are built in the city or for whom they are built in the city, both in the medieval and the modern times. So this brought me to, learn more about water architecture and how it shapes our semi-arid landscape. And that's where my focus on stepwells began. I also run a small homestay in Western India, in the region known for its forest foraged food traditions and organic farming.
Oh, wow. Lovely. And we probably ought to say whereabouts in India you are, because India is a huge country.
So I belong to Western India, a state called Gujarat, which is mostly a semi arid dry state, which has the largest number of stepwells in the country and also the entire subcontinent.
Wow. Okay. What is a stepwell? Because I didn't know until I started researching this podcast. So I'm pretty sure a lot of my listeners won't know either.
So, if we talk about a semi-arid landscape, such as the northern and northwestern parts of Indian subcontinent, then water is of paramount importance. Its collection, its preservation, its use, it deeply influences all kinds of patterns of human settlement. We observe water's importance through different kinds of water architecture, such as village ponds and wells, individual water tanks, and step wells. So step well is essentially a well, a shaft that goes deep, that goes up to 70 meters sometimes, and it is connected by a series of steps, sometimes going as low as -7, and the whole structure is subterranean. It is huge, beautiful, sort of like an inverted temple dedicated to water. That's essentially what a step well is.
I'm calling it a stepwell, but that's not what they're called in Gujarat. And I believe there's a different name in Rajasthan as well for the similar structure. So in Gujarat, they're known as vavs, yes?
Yes, yeah. In Rajasthan, they are known as baudis.
Bowdies. There you go. So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm talking about a stepwell, but we're talking about vavs or bowdies,
Yes.
depending on which part of the country you're in.
And the oldest step well is found over there, which dates back to 5,000 years. But if we talk about ancient and medieval periods of India, then the step wells date back to as old as 3rd century, particularly during one very prominent empire called Mauryan Empire. That's when the first step wells started to be seen in the structure that we see right now. However, none of these 3rd century stepwells have survived the test of time or have remained intact. So, the oldest surviving stepwells, if we talk about that, then they are from medieval period 7th and 8th century.
Would they have been in towns and villages originally, or they sort of along trade routes?
So, they have always been part of the villages, and these villages form part of the trade route. Stepwells are mostly found in the center of the village, usually connected to, particularly in medieval time, usually connected to a temple. And most of these stepwells were very important, very key structures along the trade route because they provided shade and respite and water for the caravans that would pass by on these trade routes.
So you've talked a little bit about how they're constructed. Obviously, you've just told us they've been there
Hmm.
for a long time. In that time, Gujarat and India have gone through tremendous changes in terms of the political powers that have been controlling the country. So, how has that affected the architecture of the stepwells?
So the basic construction remains the same of a stepwell. So in order to understand the difference or how the stepwells have evolved through time, we can first talk about how the stepwells are constructed, were originally constructed as an ingenious response to the hot and arid climate of India and Pakistan, Western India and Pakistan. And we receive very scarce and erratic rainfall. So preserving water through that we got from very little rainfall had become very, very important. And there also were traditional ideas of purity and hygiene, which shaped the design of the stepwell, which ensured that rainwater first percolated through the earth and then through these aquifers, the water would be so it's use off to the stepwell, and that's the water that would be used for drinking, a purified version of the rainwater. In many cases, they would also plant trees and plants that are traditionally known for their herbal properties, because it was believed that when the water would be purified by the roots of these trees and plants, then they would imbibe the properties of these plants and would keep you free from any kind of disease.
Well, that's wonderful. It'd be interesting to know if that worked. Is it? I mean, from a modern scientific perspective,
it certainly, in certain cases, it worked because the neem tree we have is very rich in chloroquine, which is quinine, which is
okay.
yeah. So when water percolated through the roots, some part of chloroquine is bound to be part of the water as well. So being a very hot, humid area, malaria is one of the biggest problems.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in a way, it worked.
Okay, so who had access then to these wells? Were they there for everyone? I mean, I'm guessing if you were a super rich person, you were obviously collecting the water yourself anyway, but they were available to everyone to use, were they?
Usually women, pilgrims, traders, soldiers, royal hunting parties, they would frequently use these structures to access water and shelter and rest during these long journeys. Mostly it would be used by women throughout the day because temples also served as social spaces for women to gather and talk and support one another away from male dominated village squares or court, and offering a rare access to the public sphere. That is a place for women to socialize and be themselves, air out grievances, talk about lovers, just for the women to be themselves. There are very few social
Yeah.
spaces, and most of these community spaces in traditional Indian societies were also very caste specific, where you are only allowed to be part of your gated community. And the only people that women would only get to interact with members from her own extended family or community. Stepwell, on the other hand, was a place where women could just gather as community.
Irrespective of caste.
Most caste bearing, I wouldn't say all, but in the traditional upper caste setup, you could just, meet and talk. Yes, the excess of water was strictly determined by caste. And as unpleasant the topic is, the reality is even worse. So I want to point that out that yes, if you were a member of a Brahmin or a warrior or a merchant caste, then yes, the access to water from stepwell was very, very easy. But if you were a member of marginalized communities called Dalits, they were considered outcasts who were denied access of water under the pretext of impurity and caste barriers and things like that. Sadly, stepwells was not their source of water because they were barred from using that. Sadly, we do see an evidence of this practice continue even in today's times, despite it being criminalized under Indian laws.
Oh, wow. So where did they get their water from then, if they weren't allowed to use the step wells?
They would have a well that is far away from the village, sometimes in the worst water drought stricken areas, because that's where there is no water. So you have to go especially deep to even find a little bit of water. So those lands would be assigned, or they would be allowed to fetch water from
Yeah.
there. And it's a horrible reality of India, but something that's important to mention.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I understand that some women actually commission the construction of step wells.
Yes, which brings us to to the favorite part. Women played a very significant role in creation and patronage of stepwells mainly across Gujarat and Rajasthan, that is the western and the northwestern India. Many of these structures from grand monuments to like simple utilitarian wells. They were linked to women who commissioned them. They were honored through these constructions, and it was a symbolic as well as a practical use. Water is just essential part of daily women's daily life. So patronage to water structures or building wells was a very big thing. So much so that about 25% of the stepwells were commissioned by women,
Oh, wow.
queens, leaders of harems, and just anybody of influence, wealthy merchant families.
I believe there's quite a famous one, actually, isn't there? The Queen's Well. Could you tell us more about that one in particular?
Yes, women's involvement in funding this kind of water architecture is also a challenge to the assumption of passivity of women in the history. The patronage mainly reflects the economic independence and the decision making power that women held in that time, and generally what is considered to be a patriarchal society. And by commissioning these stepwells, they made sure that their names and their legacy endured beyond their time. And that being said, let's come to the most interesting and the most ornate stepwell of Gujarat, called Rani Ki Vav. Rani means queen, and Vav is a Gujarati word for stepped well. One of the most influential and remarkable structure that was created in the time was Queen Stepwell, was Rani Ki Vav, that was built by a queen called Udaymati, who built it in memory of her late husband in 1032 AD. It was built in what is known as Maru Gurjar style of architecture, built entirely from sandstone, 7 stories deep, elaborately covered with friezes, with sculptures of gods and goddesses, from classical Hinduism to erotica to just about everything that you can imagine.
Does it still exist today? Can you go visit now?
Yes, yes, you can visit there. Visit. It has about 1,000 big and small minor figures. The reason why it survived, and in fact, in the most pristine way. So, in 13th century, the river Saraswati that flowed through the town of Patan, where the stepwell is located, it completely changed its course and silted the entire stepwell in the process. So, essentially, from 1300s to late 1300s to 20th century, it was just a mound, and nobody knew that a stepwell like this existed underneath because the story of the stepwell was lost in time. It was in 20th century that we started finding a lot of sculptures from around the region, which brought the interest of Archaeological Survey of India, who started excavating and found this perfectly preserved, beautiful stepwell that is so painstakingly restored to its original beauty.
It must be amazing. You've obviously visited many times, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I go there around 10 times a year. And it still manages to surprise me the way it's perfectly preserved, the beauty of the construction. So it was so beautiful that UNESCO awarded and designated it as a World Heritage Site in 2014.
And you said it was built in to commemorate her dead husband.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Was it a temple as well?
So technically, that stepwell, yes, would have a threefold reason. One, of course, a very practical reason of fetching water. Two, a more interesting reason of it being a space of socialization. And third, yes, it was built as a form of inverted temple with about 1,000 big and small god and goddess figurines just carved all over the walls of Patan Stepwell. The reason why Stepwells became a very good place for socialization for women is also because we have very hot and arid environment for at least 6 months a year, blistering more than 40 degrees Celsius.
Oh gosh, I would like that.
For 6 months a year, it is really bad hot here. But stepwells are constructed in such a way that there is a dip of about 7 to 10 degrees Celsius in temperature as you go closer to water. So by the third or the fourth layer, you've reached an area which provides you a respite from the blistering heat outside. You can rest, relax, and socialize in that cool environment.
Do other creatures not make use of that benefit as well? I'm just wondering because I'm guessing they're quite dark down there. So I'm thinking, I mean, I've read bats wouldn't bother me. Snakes would bother me. Or do they like the heat though, don't they? Snakes don't mind the heat.
Snakes don't mind the heat, but yes, yeah, you might find an odd snake here and there, but not anymore because the steppers, they're ASI monuments. So they're very heavily guarded. So no snakes. But yes, you might find bats here and there. It's not as dark and dingy as you might think it is. It is
Okay.
cooler, it is shaded, it is darkish, but steppers are built in a way that it receives direct sunlight during mornings and evenings because that's a gentler sun. And you need that much sun in order to maintain the hygiene and just sanitize the place through sun rays. During the blistering afternoon sun, you get a very nice indirect light that lights up the place, and it's not dark or dingy, not enough to attract 1,000 bats.
Okay. Well, that's reassuring. And actually, this is really fascinating because earlier in the podcast, I did an episode on the Yakchals in ancient Persia and how they created ice in the desert. And it's interesting how architecture can be employed to create, as you say, a cooling environment. And it's to making benefit of the sun when it's at its mildest. And that I find absolutely fascinating. Absolutely astounding.
I think it's the same everywhere. Like the concept of French windows, it just employed or used the sun just in reverse, where you had less sunlight and you wanted to use it fully in whatever time.
Yeah.
So when there is blistering heat, we work on being creative as to how to avoid sunlight.
So you've mentioned already that the Queen's Well, Rani Ki Vav, was a Hindu structure. So when we get to the Muslim approach to building stepwells, because they didn't go away, they were still required, weren't they? How did the architecture change then? Do they look very different?
Yeah, very different. Yes, because also in the Hindu structures, we use the post and the lintel, the column and the beam structures, where mostly it was that was the structural base. Ornate carvings are also found in both Hindu and Muslim structures and the stepwells. But the key difference was this that in the Hindu stepwells, there is post and lintel construction with like corbel dome and a load of carvings of deities and humans and animals. Under Muslim patronage, mostly it was arch and true dome that were introduced. And a lot of human imagery disappeared. A lot of deities were not found because they do not align with the Islamic belief of worshipping or carving humans in the structures. However, you do find a lot of animals in the structures that were built under Muslim patronage as well. And these designs, they would just change very different, drastically from one to another, as and when there is a shift in political power. But the most interesting two examples that I can give are also two monuments from the erstwhile capital of the state of Gujarat called Ahmedabad. So we have two 15th century stepwells in Ahmedabad, which are very ornate, non figurative, but those were built by Hindu artisans under Muslim patronage, but
Ah.
built also one of them, that is that is Adalat Stepwell, was built for a Hindu queen by a Muslim king.
Oh, interesting.
So you see a very interesting confluence of the what is considered to be traditionally a Hindu and Islamic patterns. There are no traditionally what is considered to be typically Islamic patterns in Gujarat. When Gujarat was under Muslim rule, they mostly adopted the Hindu motifs and geometric patterns from the traditional Hindu construction, and just adapted to that. It was just local architecture that just assimilated, keeping in mind Islamic ethos.
Ah, and did they still serve the same purpose? So you mentioned
Yes,
a gathering place for women. It's that's continued,
yes, that
irrespective of
has.
who was in charge. Yeah.
That has always
Ah, that's
continued. That
good.
has always been the key of Stepwells and their construction.
Is there any folklore attached to a
There are
stepwell?
many folklores attached to that. Some more bloody than others, but
Oh, really?
yes, yeah. There's a stepwell from around 13th century, and that stepwell, when it was built, it was said to be the period of drought, and that no water was found at while constructing the stepwell. So the king of the region, he ordered his soldiers to find a perfect young married couple who were made to sacrifice themselves by walking into whatever little water that the stepwell had. It is believed that the stepwell requires the sacrifice of a young couple every 300 years for it to have continuous source of water. And once that happens, and the stepwell is never running short of water.
Wow.
Obviously, since last 600 years, no other couple has been made to sacrifice their life. But in the first instance, when the stepwell was built, there was a couple who was
Wow.
sacrificed. There are often local goddesses that the stepwells are dedicated to, or even spirits, supernatural beliefs. There are certain stepwells which are dedicated to a goddess called Raina Devi, who resides in water and who is said to be the goddess of fertility. So, if a woman is considered to be barren or she's not had children for several years, then it is said that seeking blessings or bathing in that water would make you fertile again. There are also stories of ghosts and spirits, water spirits. They are called chels that do inhabit stepwells. But water spirits are mostly considered to be these benevolent spiritual entities that are just there for protection of women
Yeah.
from outside forces.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. We'll let them stay then. If
Yes.
they're protecting women, they're fine. They can stay.
They can
No
stay.
truck with them at all.
Yes.
So did some people have, like rich people I'm talking about here, have private wells then, as in that case, their own private, maybe not quite as elaborate as the ones we've been talking about, but did some people have private wells that they used?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Stepwells mostly had wealthy patrons, the kings, and also wealthiest merchants of the town would build stepwells as public structure for the use of the people of the village or the city. But some were also created privately for use by the community or a gated society, or sometimes even a large family. But they would not be as elaborate as the stepwells that were created by kings and queens.
So moving forward, obviously in India's history, it's entwined with British history because of
Hmm.
our colonial interests in the country. So what was the British attitude to stepwells?
They deemed stepwells as these unhygienic breeding grounds for disease and parasites, and eventually just barricaded the stepwells, and really some of them were just filled in, some of them were destroyed in the time before they could understand the true meaning of water architecture. A lot of them were maligned, and a lot of times there will be like physical barricading to the stepwell as well. So that led to disrepair, and that led to public not having an access to use these water stepwells, and that just led to eutrophication and algae blooms in the water, which ultimately led to stepwells being in really shambles, bad situation.
So did the British do anything to, replace this water supply then?
Yes, eventually they introduced taps and plumbing and village taps, basically. So these chalks are these village squares. So these village squares would have taps where women would go and would go with their pots to fetch water. But stepwells were much more than water. They were they were these spaces of respite for women from their responsibilities, from them being someone's mothers or daughters or daughter-in-laws or wives, which sadly was a culture that was broken with the erasure of stepwells from the community.
Yeah, I was going to say a tap's not really quite the same thing, is it? It's only fulfilling one of the needs.
One of the needs, and in many cases that also led to women not having a space for themselves to breathe free. So you are constantly under the watchful eyes of the male gaze while fetching
Yeah.
water at the village squares, and so it no longer became it no longer was a task that women looked forward to, but rather a drudging work that most, especially younger women, dreaded.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. How are the effects of climate change and increasing water scarcity perhaps altered the attitudes to stepwells now? I mean, I know you've said about how amazing the archaeological discovery was, but is there a chance that they may be coming back? They may be coming back into use, or is their usefulness be maybe appreciated again?
Many of the older stepwells and the rivers and the aquifers linked to it have dried up. So the ancient stepwells would probably be some architectural marvels to be appreciated and looked at. But some of the stepwells that are still connected to a viable water source, many architects and water conservationists are working on reviving them. And one of the biggest success stories is revival of this one particular stepwell called Bansilal Pet stepwell in a city called Hyderabad. So Hyderabad has gone through this period of modernization and urbanization to a level where it is unable to fulfill its water requirements of the people. So, after about 18 months of efforts to clear out about 3,000 tons of rubbish that was in the stepwell, and they restored the stone walls and the adjacent area, this 17th century stepwell has become a source of clean drinking water for the first time in decades.
And do women still gather there?
Gathering, not so much because it's a functional stepwell. It's not an ornate stepwell. It's
Oh,
mostly,
okay.
yeah, it's a small functional stepwell, but it has still provided water. It's being used by the community, which is just amazing. Because you
Yeah.
see, India is one of the most water scarce country in the world. We have about 18 to 18% of population of the world, but we only have 4% of fresh water.
And I believe some of that, even within that 4%, quite a lot of the surface water is polluted, isn't it? Is that
It
correct?
is.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Quite a lot of that is polluted. We are not very big on following the strict environmental laws, sadly. In that case, the stepwells and access to good public water sources is very important. And revival of stepwells, I have a hope that it will again bring back the movement of water being worshipped as a very key source of life, because that's what stepwells did. They essentially created temples to worship water and talk about the importance of water in human life. We've been callous with the use of water when we talk about water as resource, just a resource, and not a giver of life. So hopefully, this revival of stepwells would bring back the same old attitude we had towards water.
I hope so too. It's to say it's been an absolute fascinating talk today.
I hope that your viewers and listeners they get to come and see these miraculously beautiful, marvelous structures. Uh, they're really something.
So, Niyati, we've been talking about water, obviously, but we have the potluck supper coming up. So, what will you be bringing as your contribution?
I would like to bring in the raw mango cooler, given the talk we have been having regarding water, and also it's the beginning of mango season in India.
Oh, wow. Lovely.
So raw mango cooler is one of the best thirst quenchers, and it helps body regulate the body heat, and particularly in this blistering environment.
So, what's in it then? What's in the mango cooler?
Take a couple of raw mangoes and just boil them, then just remove the pulp and lightly crush the boiled pulp. Add in a little bit of sugar or jaggery to it, and just bring it to boil the entire pulp, where the sugar melts nicely. And then add in a little bit of black salt, a little bit of cumin powder, and a little bit of freshly chopped mint, and a whole lot of water, cold water to it. And just tastes amazing. It's a fantastic way to consume all your salts and sugars in this blistering heat, and is a fantastic digestive as well.
Oh, it sounds lovely. So, the black salt you mentioned, because last week's episode, it was on salt that we have in Britain from a brine. Where does the black salt come from? I've heard of like Himalayan salt, but I'm curious, this black salt, where does that come from?
Black salt comes from the mines of Gujarat and Rajasthan and Sindh region of Pakistan. It is pinkish. It's not actually black, but the outer layer is purplish black. But when you cut through, it is pinkish purple in color. It looks similar to Himalayan pink salt, but has a much more intense flavor than that.
Oh, okay. I shall have to have a look for that and see if I can find it in the UK. But yeah, sounds fascinating.
Go to any Indian store, you'll find it.
Oh, okay. Brilliant. I will then. The drink sounds absolutely delicious. So, what's next on the horizon for yourself? What have you got coming up?
For myself, I have two livelihood projects to further. I work with bamboo artisans in Western Gujarat, and I would like to, I'd like to bring that further. That's a project that is going on in my mind, and that is a project that we've been working on since many years. Hopefully, I'd be able to escalate that. And second thing that I'll be executing in next 2 months is the water wheel project, which I'd be doing with the nomadic community called Mirasi, and we are currently fundraising to be able to bring wheels. These are these huge plastic wheels that are shaped in the form of tire, but they are tanks. So the water wheels, since they have to travel 2, 3, 5 kilometers to access fresh, clean water, so these wheels would hopefully, provide supplementary water, so they don't have to keep going there again and again, and they don't have to carry heavy pots on their heads, and rather have a wheel that they can just roll.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yes, very big long-term health benefits, because they would not have backaches and headaches and a lot of other issues that come with fetching water in water pots.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today and being on the podcast. It's been a fascinating chat. And I look forward to one day visiting Gujarat to see some of the vavs in person. Thank you.
Absolutely. That'll be such a wonderful thing. And hopefully I'll get to meet you and take you around.
That would be great. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
A huge thank you to Niyati for providing such a thought-provoking ending to this season. Obviously, stepwells are not going to provide the sole solution to the water crisis in India, or indeed the world at large. But I do find it uplifting that history can still teach us a thing or two about protecting our natural resources. You can find links to more information on Stepwells and SOAR excursions in the show notes. And that's it for Season 4, folks. Water was an immense topic to explore, but I just couldn't cover it all in the time I had available to research and write each episode. What watery topic did I miss that you really wanted to hear about? Do let me know via Substack or email, which I will give you shortly, as it's possible that I may be able to include a topic that I missed in a future podcast episode. The podcast wouldn't be possible without the generosity of my paid subscribers, so I'd like to say a heartfelt cheers to everyone who's backed the podcast over the past year. You can find details on how to support the podcast yourself in the show notes. I'd also like to thank all of the fascinating people who have contributed to this season. They've certainly enriched my life and increased my knowledge on so many diverse aspects of food and drink history, and I hope yours too. Season 5 will be back in 2027, which I know sounds like a long way off, but you'll be whipping up your Christmas pudding and filling your stockings with presents before you know it. But fear not, I won't be leaving you bereft of any nourishment. I'll be releasing the occasional bonus episode over the coming months on subjects that don't quite fit into my regular seasons, so keep an ear out for those. So what will be the theme for the next season of the Comfortably Hungry podcast? Well, I thought we'd take a look at fat, both in terms of something that we cook with and eat, and indeed what it meant to be fat, or thin for that matter, throughout history. There are plenty of well-oiled roads I could travel down with this theme, but is there anything you'd like me to cover in particular? Email your suggestions to comfortablyhungry@gmail.com or drop me a note on the Comfortably Hungry Substack. As Shakespeare's Juliet says, "Parting is such sweet sorrow, but I'll be back soon." Thank you for listening to this episode. If you really loved it, please rate and review it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, as it really will help other listeners discover Comfortably Hungry. Don't forget to pop along to sambilton.com, where you'll find details on my books, which include my latest publication, Much Ado About Cooking, written in collaboration with Shakespeare's Globe. This new cookbook features recipes inspired by the food in the Bard plays and was huge fun to write, so I think it will be right up your street. You may also want to subscribe to the Comfortably Hungry Substack, which includes more detailed notes from the show. You can subscribe for free, but if you become a paid subscriber for £3.50 a month, you'll also get recipes inspired by the topics covered in the show and access to extra content. Alternatively, you can leave me a one-off tip via Ko-fi to show your appreciation. Just click on the relevant link in the show notes. Your support will help fund the research required to produce Comfortably Hungry. It also means that I can avoid including those pesky ads that may interfere with your enjoyment of the podcast. If you have any questions relating to this season's theme, you can leave a comment in the chat section of the Comfortably Hungry Substack page or tag me on social media. Remember, you can find me on Instagram, Threads and Blue Sky at Mrs. Bilton, that's with 2 S's. I'll be plunging back into the liquid world of food and drink history soon, but until then, take care. Comfortably Hungry is research produced and presented by food historian Sam Bilton, with sound mixing and production by Thomas Dinas of the Delicious Legacy podcast. Additional sound effects and music are provided by Zapsplat and Pom5.